It's the conversation that keeps on giving this time of year because really, there's not a whole lot going on right now. So you ask a reporter what's going on and you ask him the most interesting conversation. And of course, that conversation is going to revolve around Aaron Rodgers' next team. Josina Anderson made a report yesterday that got a lot of people fired up. Although the report really did not indicate that much. The report says this, worth noting, one league source told me earlier today that the Steelers feel like they're getting closer on their quarterback situation. In their mind, that optimism pertained to Aaron Rodgers. Let's see if that sentiment is mutually held towards the consummation of a deal at some point. So it appears like the Raiders want Aaron Rodgers. And why not? Wouldn't they? Who are their quarterback options? Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson? The Steelers and the Giants are in a major crisis right now. I mean, this is as big a crisis as you can get if you're an NFL franchise, especially for the two coaches that are coaching those teams. Mike Tomlin's made the playoffs forever, but when's the last time he did something in the playoffs? Brian Daboll, if his team's not successful this season, he's getting fired. So these two teams are in a crisis because they don't know who the quarterback is next year. But Albert Breer, an NFL insider, does Monday morning quarterback stuff, Amazon stuff, NFL on Prime stuff, Embassy Boston, 98.5, the Sports Hub, Boston Globe, Dallas Morning News, and those must be his past stuff, provided an update on Aaron Rodgers and the Vikings situation, courtesy of the Purple Persuasion on X. This is what he does. Finds good information, posts it. People get sensitive about it. But he credits the source via Rich Eisen's show. Includes the link to where the show was. Free press. People are watching this stuff. And there's people out there that don't like it when they do it to their own show. And it just makes absolutely no sense. For more on that, go check out yesterday's podcast, the Minnesota Vikings Media Drama Podcast. Albert Breer says it's still possible that Aaron Rodgers comes to Minnesota. Breer also elaborates on the questions the Vikings are likely asking themselves. Are you willing to press pause on J.J. McCarthy for 1 year? How will McCarthy take that? Now, the voice of the Vikings, Paul Allen, who's been on the show many times, came out the other day on X and on his KFan 9 to noon show and killed Aaron Rodgers rumors. Says it ain't happening, not even close. He quote tweets this tweet from the Purple Persuasion and says this: this chat has become repetitive and boring. Needs to end like tomorrow. Hashtag amen. Hashtag nothing to see here. Hashtag JJ's money. I don't disagree with anything Paul Allen has to say on this. It is becoming a little boring, and it is repetitive because I've been talking about Aaron Rodgers to the Vikings for the last 2 weeks. It is an interesting story, though, because Rodgers, it appears, is not making a decision really anytime soon. But who holds the brunt of the responsibility for this conversation lasting this long? And it's not Aaron Rodgers. It's the Minnesota Vikings organization. Because they could easily come out and squash any rumor that they wanted to. They could come out and say, you know what, JJ's our guy. Rodgers is a no-no. Like I tell my kids, my kids like to go towards this vent in our house. And they like to pull up the vent. And sometimes they like to stuff toys down there. And they go to this vent in the house and they look back at Dad with like this little grin, this little like, I know what I'm doing face. They go. And then they bend down and they grab the vent, they pull it up. And what do you think I say? Do you think I just sit there and say nothing and allow it to happen? Do you think I sit there and look at them and be like, do whatever you want? Because if they do that, they are going to think that what they are doing is okay. No, but that's not what I do. I say, no, stop it. And if they pull it up, I go over there and put that thing down. Because I don't want toys going down there. And the Minnesota Vikings could easily do the exact same thing. They'd be like, no, Aaron Rodgers. But what they are doing instead is they are allowing it to play out, which adds sparks to the firewood. And they're creating a fire of these Aaron Rodgers rumors that are never ending because they are not coming out and killing these rumors. So the Vikings hold all responsibility to every single Aaron Rodgers rumor. And until they come out and say, we're done, this is a non-story, then the media will be done. But until that day comes, the Adam Schefters, the Albert Breers, the Ian Rappaports, the Tom Pelissaros, they are going to be fed questions about this because right now it is the most interesting NFL storyline following NFL free agency. And that's just the truth of the matter. Do I think Aaron Rodgers comes to Minnesota? No, I don't think so. I think Paul Allen has merit to what he says, and he said it multiple times. And I don't think he would come out and say it if it wasn't true. But that is not going to stop people from speculating. What's going to stop people from speculating is the Minnesota Vikings organization telling their insiders, Alec Lewis, Ben Gessling, those types of guys, Kevin Seifert, that we're done and we are not going to sign Aaron Rodgers, and J.J. McCarthy is our guy. So that's the story. And that's the truth of the whole situation. All right. Moving on to a different story. I thought this was interesting because on to the Minnesota Twins. This came from Declan Goff of Score North. Royce Lewis will miss the start of the Minnesota Twins season with a moderate hamstring strain, but he said the injury is not even close to his quad strain last year. No timetable for his return. The Minnesota Twins are a glass house. Like, seriously. The best players on their team are hurt every year, multiple times a year. And Declan put out this tweet on X on March 17th. So that was 2 days ago. His injury happened before that. When did his injury happen? March 16th, maybe a day before. The Minnesota Twins home opener their opener, they open up on the road. The Twins opener isn't until March 17th, so he has a week and a half to get this hamstring strain figured out. And it was severe enough that there is no timetable for a return, and it is severe enough that he is going to miss at least the first few games of the Twins season. The most important player on the Minnesota Twins is not going to be available again. You got Carlos Correa injured, always. Byron Buxton injured, always. And what's so funny to me about the whole situation is that every year players and the Twins organization said, we've got it figured out. These guys are going to be healthy all year. And we've got the right people in place to make sure that they're not going to go down with an injury. And when you look at the players on the Twins and the talent that they have, the talent is clearly there. But when they lose, how can you blame Rocco Baldelli, the Twins head coach, for the amount of injuries that are sustained throughout the 162-game season when his players are made and built like a glass house? Always injured. It's not like Royce Lewis was slide diving sideways into first base or home plate. He was running down the line. It's not like he took a massive swing at a ball, he lost his balance, fell over, strained his hamstring. It's like just running to first base. He hits the ball to the left side of the field, running to first base, pulled his hamstring. It's ridiculous because Royce Lewis is clearly a talented guy. And I remember last year, the Minnesota Twins home opener against the Royals, I think it was. He had a home run on his first at bat. And of course, that's going to get everybody psyched out of their minds because he's one of the most talented Twins players that we've seen in a long time. He's 25 years old. After he hit that home run, I remember saying and tweeting, how long until Royce Lewis gets injured? Next at bat, he had a double, I think. And at second base, he came up limping. It took 2 at-bats last season for Royce Lewis to get injured. You are too valuable a piece and too important a player to miss a ton of games every year. Last year, he only played in 82 games. There's 162 games of the regular season. He played in half the season. The year before that, 2023, his real first opportunity to play, he played in 58 games. And in 2022, his rookie year, he played 12 games. So this is becoming a trend, not only for Royce Lewis, but the entire Twins organization. Carlos Correa is always hurt. Byron Buxton's always hurt. So when you go to the blame game and you're like, oh, this guy should be fired, this guy should be fired, it's like, based on what ground? Correa played 86 games last year. How can you point the finger to Baldelli and say this guy does not belong as the Twins head coach when his most important players are missing for half the season every year? So Royce Lewis played 82 games last year. Carlos Correa played 86 games last year. As we're looking at Byron Buxton's numbers, how many games do you want to guess that he played in last year? I don't know this number yet. How many games are you going to predict that Buxton played in last year? I'm going to predict that Buxton played 97. Let's see. Buxton played 102. So out of those 3 players, Buxton played the most amount of games and still missed 60 games. It's ridiculous. It's crazy. The year before that, Buxton only played 85. The year before that, he only played 92. Last year was only the second season of his 10-year career where he played at least 100 games. And we act like 100 games is this type of amazing feat. He still missed 60 of them. So I go back to what I've been saying. How can you blame Baldelli and say this guy should be fired when he's really been given no chance to succeed when his best players can't even be on the field? So I don't know who to blame. I don't know whose fault it is. Certainly not Royce Lewis's fault that he's always hurt. Like, how can you blame the guy for always getting hurt? It's not like he's trying to get hurt. Just the crazy nature of the Minnesota Twins roster. So the guys get injured all the time. And whether that means you got to trade some of these guys to get some pieces that can play and actually be on the field, or whatever it is, you can't do the same thing every year. So that's my take on the Twins. Thank you for watching this episode and for making this podcast part of your day. Hit that subscribe button. This Minnesota Tim podcast is a pleasure to be here for you.